Good evening and welcome back to United TV. A few stories to talk about and maybe a couple of different names to discuss, which we haven't covered for a while. And I'm going to go straight into the first story because there has been in the national newspapers in the UK some credible sources now which have linked Manchester United to Morgan Gibbs-White. So that's another story which we can consider in terms of Manchester United's options for the summer transfer window. So at the moment, I think that there is a release clause which would be closer to 80 million, but possibly, and I think Manchester United feel that maybe 60 million could be enough to get this deal done. I believe there might be a couple of years left on Morgan Gibbs White's contract, so potentially this could be an option. Obviously, we'll talk about other options as well, because I think Rogers was talked about by Ben Jacobs, and that would be a price of at least 80. So we're looking at least 80 for Rogers. We're probably also adding a little bit on top of that for Diomande, who would probably be, I think 85 is the first figure I saw from Leipzig. So that's kind of to put a few players into the mix. I'm not sure how much Unai is actually going to cost if he's another player we can look at, but this is the starting point for tonight's stream. There is a couple of stories about Rashford being linked to Spurs, also potentially stumbling blocks with Barcelona, which I don't really want to go into because I think that needs to resolve itself before we can talk about it in any sort of idea of what's going on there. But also Aston Villa apparently monitoring the situation as well. So just a very quick look at those where those stories are coming from. So just this is something discussed by Ben Jacobs on the United stand. We'll look at that at some point. And this is Aston Villa essentially just monitoring the situation, which hopefully something gets resolved quite soon. But again, we'll go with that story a bit more detail at some point when we get some sort of clarity on the situation. But at the moment, I think it's a lot of uncertainty about what's happening. So thanks, people in the comments. I appreciate everybody getting involved tonight, and we're going to go through this and see what people think about this one. And I did see a couple of questions in the comments about if you're looking at the contract deal with Kobe Mainoo and his family were apparently at Manchester United today, signing his contract. I think there's going to be some sort of official confirmation before the Liverpool game. So I think it's a done deal, Mickey. I think it's a done deal, but I don't think they've kind of released all the stuff around that yet. So I think that'll be something which comes out at some point. So I think that's something to look out for. Probably just ahead of the Liverpool game, they'll bring that out. So initially, what are people's first reaction about this one? That if we're having a look at this one, then say Morgan Gibbs White re-signed last summer when he stayed, did he not? Says Mickey. So I think there's going to be a couple of years on his contract at least. I think you're looking at Rogers. Rogers is younger, and you would look at Rogers being under contract with Aston Villa for a decent amount of time. But Aston Villa think that based on the age he is, they want to cash in, it seems. So it seems that Ben Jacobs thinks that they want to cash in on Rogers and make some profit. He's 23 years old. He would maybe fit Manchester United's mould a bit better. But what do people think regarding a signing like Morgan Gibbs-White? The first question I had really was, well, where's Morgan Gibbs-White going to fit into Manchester United's team? What's your thoughts initially on this situation? So just a quick question. What's your initial thoughts on Morgan Gibbs-White? I know Cody was quite happy regarding this one. Again, a lot depends on what happens with Nottingham Forest next season. And Stephanie says, Marinakis won't allow Morgan Gibbs-White to leave again with Murillo. So Forest's three most important players. I think they can go, but I think they're going to cost quite a bit of money. So I think Murillo would cost a lot of money. And if they're going to let Anderson go, they're going to get a lot of money as well. I mean, apparently they were linked to Hayden Hackney. So I think anyone that actually, any sort of situation that happens regarding Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo and Anderson, Nottingham Forest are going to cash in and they're going to use that money to probably strengthen their squad. And maybe that's what they're looking at. We saw Alanga move last year. So it seems that Nottingham Forest, they don't mind selling their key players. They don't mind selling their first team players, but they want to get a good price. So this is something that Nottingham Forest have done quite a lot. They do move a lot of players on. They do get a lot of players through the door. So it might be that they see that as going to be something that they can get done, make some profit on. So I don't know whether people think this is going to be a good option for Manchester United or whether it's going to be another option which you think is not so keen on. But again, I think it's worth to discuss these options. So Mickey says you feel like Morgan Gibbs-White might be similar to Cunha for you. So my question is going to be like if you watched Nottingham Forest, Like, where do you see Morgan Gibbs-White fitting into our team? Because I had a look at Morgan Gibbs-White's heat map. I'll put that on the screen in a second. If Morgan Gibbs-White was a Manchester United player, where do you think he's most likely to be played? As a suggestion, because when I looked at his heat map, it was kind of a bit different to what I was expecting. So if you're looking at him being a signing, like I see what Mickey's saying that Morgan Gibbs White's similar to Cunha for you. I think he probably gets like quite a free role as well, like quite a free role. JDC says, why are we even going for cams? I don't know. Maybe something's happening with a few players at our club which we're not aware of. Maybe we're going to see Mason Mount moved out. Who knows? But again, we're looking at where would Gibbs White actually play if he joined Manchester United. So I've got the heat map. I just that's kind of the question. Before I put the heat map on the screen, just thought that so Mickey said he thinks he's going to be too similar to Cunha. Um, so what do you think, Cody? Like where does he fit into the team if we actually sign him? And Ryan, you saw the story as well. Where do you think he would fit into the team if Manchester United signed him? Because I think if Manchester United got Rogers, I think we know what Manchester United are roughly looking at. So I'm just looking in the comments for any suggestions on how you think he fits into the team. So I think the closest suggestion so far is Mickey saying similar to Cunha. Just any other suggestions in terms of like who he's going to be actually replacing? Cody says he could thrive on the flanks. Do you think Manchester United probably need that sort of replacement? So Yardi's saying White most likely would be a target if Bruno decides to move on. I guess that if Bruno Fernandes does decide to move on, you then got to, I suppose, look at the replacement. So I'll put just to give some just to give some interest and some context to the discussion. This is Morgan Gibbs White's heat map at Nottingham Forest. So compared, I think when you look at where he's going to be playing or where he could play, so you've got quite a lot. It'd be interesting to actually see maybe compare it to other players' heat maps, but quite a lot on the left, quite a lot on the right. He generally plays as an attacking midfielder. He's got sort of a free role, but he's generally on the wings rather than the centre. And I think with this one, you've obviously got a versatile player. When I was looking at some information regarding Rogers would be definitely favouring the left, doesn't really mind playing centrally, but definitely doesn't want to play on the right. And you could probably say Ahmed Diallo looks more comfortable on the right, not so much on the left. This feels a little bit like, based on this heat map, like Cunha could be doing the same job. So I think Mickey was like pretty close. And I guess Cunha's like predominantly going to be on the left. When we're in the squad, yeah, he's probably going to be on the right. But it feels a little bit like, unless we're looking at moving his position, which I guess could be something that happens. I think at Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs White does tend to get a bit more of a free role in where he goes. If Manchester United were looking at getting this sort of player, maybe they would fix it a bit more. Maybe it would be a bit more central, and maybe that's what they're looking at. I don't know. I think there's a lot to probably a lot to consider here. That if Bruno Fernandes does leave, then the transfer window does become quite a different issue. And again, this is something which United are looking at most players, and it does seem to be something like a factor. It does seem to be something where you're looking at players that can play in more than one position. And if you're looking at no, he's hit a bit of form recently as well, which is a factor. But you'd probably see an upgrade over Amad Diallo. And so looking at the heat map, he wants Bruno's place. I mean, if Bruno Fernandes leaves, which for me would be I don't know, a bit of a concern because it'd be very difficult to replace him, and there's no real like for like replacement. Then you probably have to bring in a couple of players. And Yoli's saying, yeah, based on this, then left wing would be predominantly where he's been at Spurs. But if you're looking at what it would do at Manchester United, clearly you'd have to adapt somewhat. But clearly, I think at Manchester United he might not get quite. Well, actually, I suppose Bruno got a bit of free reign, so maybe he'd have to rein himself in a little bit. So Bruno Fernandes should not be an overhyped player. It should be someone like Nico Paz, says JDC. I don't know how well do you think Nico Paz could adapt to what Manchester United need, or do you think he can like walk straight in? I think it's no easy task to come in and do what Bruno does. I know there's a lot of players that people would say, okay, get this player in instead of Bruno, but I don't think it's that easy. I think this is probably one of the key factors as well. I think one of the reasons why Manchester United are looking at Morgan Gibbs-White is probably his versatility. And it's the same way as like when you get players like Diamonde who have barely played a full season, then there's a question marks over where is the best position. And it was interesting to hear Rogers or quotes from people that know Rogers saying he doesn't mind playing where he doesn't mind playing centrally, he doesn't mind playing left, he just doesn't feel comfortable at all playing right. So again, that seems quite similar to Adeyemi, who plays left or plays more central. And it does seem to be that Morgan Gibbs White. Maybe versatility is a key thing. But again, a lot depends on what happens in this transfer window. I think it's a lot of money. I mean, £80 million is his release clause, but £60 million might get the deal done. I don't know if I'd be particularly excited about this deal. I think it's going to be one that, at the moment, maybe it's like looking at a few different things. Isabella says, so only 2 years left in this contract, and say, oh, this is Morgan Gibbs White you're talking about. I think maybe what you're looking at here is could Morgan Gibbs White plus another player end up being enough replacement for Bruno Fernandes? I think clearly what Manchester United probably need to do is if we're looking at our attack and we're going to be like completely blunt about our attack, I think Manchester United have got a few players in that attack that can score goals. I think at the moment, then probably you'd have to say Ahmad is not really contributing the same, but Cunha and Buemo, I think there's definitely goal scorers in that team. I think didn't Morgan Gibbs White get a hat trick in a recent game? So he's hit a bit of form as well. I mean, Forest have been doing well. I'm trying to think who they played because they played. I don't know if it's like Burnley or another game where actually they scored. Did they score like 9 goals? So I'm trying to think now. Did they win 5-0 against Sunderland and then 4-1 against Burnley? So I think he got a few goals in one of those games. Hit a bit of form, but I think if Manchester United are looking for someone to come in, they've got to be at least able to score a decent amount of goals. I think that's something that you've got to replace. You can't replace Bruno Fernandes with attacking midfielders that are, I don't know, suppose like say Odegaard's output, where there's not many goals there. I think you've got to have someone that's going to be at least if they're not going to get the amount of assists Bruno does, which I think is possibly nearly impossible. I think you've got to be looking at trying to get at least goal scoring attacking midfielders. I mean, Liam was saying you can't win trophies with Gibbs types of players. Well, it's one player, isn't it? It is one player. So I think for attacking players, if we're looking at players moving on, then I think you have to replace them. But I think at this point in time, maybe Manchester United are looking at, for example, Xerxes might well be leaving the club. And where's Xerxes' best position? Well, if we're going to be honest about Xerxes, like Xerxes can't replace Bruno, he can't replace Rasmus, to be honest. So you could be looking at a situation where Manchester United possibly look at this as like a not a Xerxes replacement, but if Xerxes leaves, you need another person in attack, someone that's going to be potentially, even if Bruno Fernandes is going to start most games next season, you do need to replace him in some games. Like he's not going to play full 90 minutes. You've got to manage the minutes a bit more than we have done over the last couple of years because he is an important player. And we do need a bit more depth. And at the moment, we seem to be bringing Mason Mount on. Maybe Morgan Gibbs White would be a better option than Mount. We're talking about the same sort of money, to be honest, as Mason Mount. So it's going to be that sort of deal. And that's kind of where the price point is. So looking at the comments, Chris says, I'm more concerned with centre back, full back, and goalkeeper than another attacking player. I'm just looking at the squad thinking that clearly for me, that you're right, the midfield's the priority. And I think defensive options are also important. I think goalkeeping cover is going to be Vitek or Vitek sold, and we buy another one. It'll be something along those lines. But I think in terms of attacking cover, if you're thinking about Manchester United playing in the Champions League next season, you kind of need to get cover from most positions on the pitch. We're better saying when Nottingham Forest bought him in 2022, Wolves negotiated a 15% sell-on profit, which reduced to 10% after 1 year. So it is it is a bit of profit. I mean, when you're looking at Cunha coming in last season, and you're looking at say this, like Cunha came in, and we're looking at maybe this player being linked, Rogers being linked. And lots of people are saying, these players could play left, they could play other positions, but they could be, somewhat a Bruno replacement, Cole Palmer. It feels like there's a few players being linked now that are potentially going to be, testing the water just to see what's out there. If Bruno Fernandes, for some reason, did decide to leave, and it is a possibility, it's something that we think hopefully it doesn't happen, but some people might want that to happen. But if Bruno Fernandes does decide he wants to leave the club, then Manchester United need to actually have a few people, or at least have some idea of who they might sign to replace him, or to actually replace the midfield hole. Because we know if Bruno does leave, then we could almost be losing a whole midfield in one summer, which should be very difficult to suddenly replace. And say if Rogers is 80 million and Rashford's valued at less than 30, who thinks these transfer fees? I think Rashford gets paid what £300,000 a week. So Rashford's salary is 15 million a year. I think that's the difference, Stephanie, or it could be 18 million a year. So I think when you're looking at the overall package, if Rashford's contract was a lot less, I think Morgan Gibbs White's on 100k. And if you're looking at Rogers, I have no idea what Rogers is on, but Rogers is 23. I can't imagine he's going to be on an insane contract at Aston Villa. So if Rashford gets paid three times as much, then over a 3-year deal, it's going to cost an extra maybe 50 million in salary to Rashford. So the difference is phenomenal. So that's the difference in price, I think, Stephanie. It's literally the salary. And also, and Rashford's about 28, isn't he? Rogers is 5 years younger. So if you look at a 300k plus salary and a 28-year-old, you just can't charge the same price. Yeah, someone can buy Rogers for 80 million and then in 3 years' time decide to sell him. And a 26-year-old, he might still be worth a decent amount of money. He might still be getting 50, 60 million back from that deal. So if you consider the literal suitcases of cash Rashford's taking home, that's the factor, isn't it? That it's the same as like Casemiro. Manchester United there was kind of like talk about selling Casemiro a year ago. No one's going to buy Casemiro like 30 years old with a 300k salary. It's just not going to happen. So looking at this, my question would be like, what is the best option? So I'll put a poll in the chat so we can have a vote on this one. And there's going to be a couple of options, I guess. So best, I guess we'll call it. I suppose we just. I won't define position because we're not saying this is a Bruno replacement, but we're just saying there's players that are linked with Manchester United. Usually they're described as being left wing positions, or maybe they're more left wing plus central. So the best option would probably be, I guess you got Morgan Gibbs White to start with at 60 million. And it might be that Nottingham Forest decides to cash in the same way that Aston Villa are going to cash in on Rodgers, possibly. So it does show actually the way Aston Villa think as a club, that they're looking at trying to cash in on a player who's actually been one of the better players rather than building around him. But Rodgers 80 million, and I think Diamonde would be 85 million. I don't know if there's any other considerations at this point in time, but they're kind of three signings. You've got a couple of Premier League signings there. You've got actually, I suppose Cole Palmer would be the other one, wouldn't it? Was Cole Palmer going to be like 125 or something? So I'll put that in, but it does seem to be rather crazy price wise. But I'll put that in there as an option. I don't think Palmer is. Yeah, if Manchester United are looking to buy more than like two players, there's no way to go for Palmer, is there? So I'll start that poll, and we can have a look, see what result that gets. But this might be the last year Manchester United actually have this issue with Rashford, Casemiro's salary that was on the books, Sancho's salary. Like all the deals we're doing now are completely different, aren't they? We're not going to have that issue anymore. So, I mean, Casemiro, you can say is worth the money, but I think if Manchester United had bought someone younger, it might have been a little bit better use of the money over that. So I think Casemiro was like he's been worth the money recently, but maybe overall possibly not so much. That's what I would say. I'd say yeah. No, considering what's happened with Rashford, it does seem to be a frustrating situation because the players we're linked to don't have as good a record as Rashford, and they don't score as many goals. They weren't as dangerous. So I don't know whether like I haven't been monitoring Rashford incredibly closely at Barcelona, but it does seem strange that he's actually putting up better numbers than a lot of their players. And it's yeah. And the UC 125 for Palmer, you have to accept that Palmer might be absolutely ridiculous money. He's on about a 6 year contract, isn't he? So Cole Palmer's under contract for about 6, 7 years. And Chelsea have said they want 150 for him. So you'd have to look at Palmer as being astronomical money. I mean, unless Chelsea want to suddenly slash the price, then yeah, if you've got an issue with the price, then you have to speak to Chelsea because I don't think there's going to be any sort of situation. Whereas the bet says Morgan Rogers signed a new contract in November 2025, extending till 2031. So new deal reportedly includes a rich release clause close to 100 million. So it looks like some of these clubs, and this is pretty recent as well. So this is not very different to the situation at Semenyo, and it seems to be that some of these contracts are signed with a way of actually trying to make money for the club. So clearly, there's differences in how clubs operate, and Aston Villa are probably the biggest selling club in terms of like if you look at where they are in the league, you feel like they should be trying to build to try and progress. But Aston Villa could well get Champions League football and still sell players because they want to cash in and rebuild. And so they're still looking at a way of making profit. Whereas the clubs that generally do that, you feel like a Bournemouth, a Brentford, a Brighton, they're the sort of clubs that generally need to do this. They don't have the revenue, but I think it does go to show that Aston Villa a few years ago were in the Championship. They're still kind of building up. So maybe what we're seeing is that Aston Villa are looking to try and balance the books a little bit. Something which you'd have thought actually with a couple of years of with Champions League money, you'd have thought this would be definitely something that we could see happen. But no, as this he said that Aston Villa are apparently prepared to cash in on Rodgers, and maybe what we're seeing as well that I would say Nottingham Forest are 100% a team that cash in as well. So yeah, hopefully it is an interesting result. I can't see the results, so hopefully it's an interesting one. But if you're looking at this and you're questioning whether Nottingham Forest will cash in on players like Morgan Gibbs-White, then 100% they definitely will. They sold Elanga, who is one of their most effective players, and they will definitely look at selling Anderson. They'll probably sell Murillo if they get a big offer as well. So I don't think they're going to be concerned about selling key players. They're just going to be looking at trying to make sure they replace these players with quality players as well. So again, I think for this one, I think it's a difficult one to consider if it's a good deal. And at the moment, it looks like that for United, there's options out there. But I don't think I don't think it's the worst player we've been linked to. But it does seem to be quite a lot of money considering there's other players out there that maybe we could go younger, maybe we could go for a higher ceiling. I don't know what people think. But again, this is an opportunity to get any sort of questions in or comments you've got regarding some of these. I think the if you're looking at the Cole Palmer one, yeah, it's really going to be expensive. Like Cole Palmer is going to be a deal that I think Manchester United should walk away from, to be honest. Cody says, yeah, I think Aston Villa have got people lined up. So if we have a situation where Aston Villa decide to cash in, they will have people lined up. Like when they sold Grealish, they literally had like a list of like 3 or 4 players ready to be signed. So I think they could be looking at definitely having a few options regarding, let's say, we're bringing in replacements. So, Aston Villa don't mess about. They've definitely got a plan here. So I get the feeling that Rodgers might well leave the club if an offer comes in that's going to be at least significant, or whether I don't know. Maybe Aston Villa, no, if they don't get 80 million for him, maybe they keep him for another year and then cash in a year after. But they feel like when he's 23 years old, I think it's quite a key signing, isn't it? You can probably look at keeping him for a year, possibly. But no, I think Aston Villa might need to build the books, to balance the books a little bit as well. So, and yeah, quite often, if I do a stream, quite often the poll tends to favour the player we're talking about. So, I'd be interested to know if you're watching, what are the positives about this deal? So obviously, the negatives are going to be it's £60 million. Manchester United could spend that on a midfielder, and Manchester United could spend that on maybe a left back. There are other options that you could be looking at as well. So it's not the worst option, but I'd be interested to know if Everton come back with a price for Undayi. So at the moment, we're looking at a few options. I think Diomande seems a bit more exciting for me. I think if you're looking at it saying it's tied with Diomande at the moment, Diomande feels like the more exciting one. I think one of these stories I've seen recently, I think it might be Liverpool were interested in Rogers or Gibbs-White, but I think Liverpool have cooled their interest on these players. So it would feel like there's not lots of competition. So if Manchester United did want to go for this, it wouldn't be particularly, difficult to try and get this deal done. The other story that maybe links to this a little bit that we could say is Marcus Rashford. We don't know what the situation with Barcelona is, and it looks like if Barcelona want another loan deal, which I think would be ridiculous considering what happened the previous season, um, Aston Villa might be in line for a loan deal as well, or they're going to monitor the situation, see what happens. I believe if Spurs avoid relegation, they might be in the mix. So yeah, what do people think? So, Mickey says, I can't believe we're fighting over City's scraps, Rogers and Palmer. I mean, the thing is, they're also too expensive, aren't they? And so I think they're a bit too expensive. So I agree with that one. Burb says it's a bit like Tonali Belieber for you. Looking at it on its own doesn't do anything for me. Looking at this player alongside a few a few of the signings we could do. Yeah, I suppose if you're looking at these signings, then and you're considering options, then I think Gibbs White, if you got him in the squad, then clearly I think people would be happier than players like Mason Mount than Xerxes. And you could see that it would be a useful player in Manchester United squad, but you'd probably be looking at individual players thinking, right, if the midfield's fixed, then it could be a good option. Stephanie said you voted for Morgan Gibbs White because he can score headed goals, can play right back, left back, and CDM allegedly. So let's just check his heat map and see where. Generally, apparently, according to it might be SofaScore. Then Morgan Gibbs White, 91% of the time starts as a quite a forward attacking player and more of a central midfielder, like 9% of the time. So I guess if you're looking at like 10% is a CDM, 90% is an attacking midfielder. I don't know about right back and left back though. That might be something I've not seen. But I mean, we sometimes do put random players at left back. I would hope that we've gone past that as a club and we can actually put left backs in the left back position. So hopefully that's not going to be happening. You think a day would be more expensive than 60? That would be quite expensive. That would be quite pricey, wouldn't it? But no, you never know, do you? You never know what would happen with this one. Cody says nothing exciting about Diomande. The English Premier League is brutal. Now, he was linked with Liverpool. There were quite strong links to a few clubs, so I think the links are there for Diomande to top clubs. I think Leipzig are probably putting a price on which makes it seem a bit too expensive. So no, I think if you're looking at Diomande, it's a bit expensive, but this is Leipzig as well, so you have to pay for potential. Whereas I think United could look at Sesko and go, actually maybe Diamonde's not ready. So I think Sesko probably wasn't ready a couple of years ago. I don't think we need to worry too much about Diamonde at the moment. I think it's a bit early to kind of to get him and push him into the Premier League. Dabas and welcome to the chat says we could go cheap on a left wing, save money, and unsettle Yildiz and aim straight at Juventus in 2 seasons. How do you mean aim straight at Juventus? Like what? We're after other players as well. Can we send Mason Mount to Juventus? I know his salary's outrageous, but do you think we could do that sort of deal? Because I don't mind getting Yildiz and moving Mount on and having Yildiz plus Bruno for a season. I think that would be pretty good. I'll just say this: if you're not on the Belieber train, you may as well. At some point, you might have to accept that he's probably going to be a Manchester United player. So you might have to accept that. I know there's people that don't want Belieber. I think you might have to just accept that's probably going to happen. Whether you want to accept it or not, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be a thing. So I think it's if, when you look at deal and think it's going to happen, isn't it? There's an inevitability about it that Believer will be a Manchester United player at some time. I think most people know it's going to happen as well. Aston Villa should take Mounts as Cody. Well, we sent Sancho and Lindelof there. I mean, there's only so much they can take, surely. Like, there's only so much we can. There's only so much crap we can throw at Villa, surely, and some of it's going to bounce back. So I don't know if Marcus Rashford's like up for going there again. It's going to be a very strange one, isn't it? Lewandowski, I don't know. Bring back Harry Kane. Harry Kane might be Ballon d'Or destined this season if they win it all. So maybe in that case, Harry Kane could come back, beat the Premier League goal scoring record, maybe help us get close to winning some big trophies, possibly. But no, so to go back on track with like the potential transfer options, Berber says Morgan Gibbs White alongside Belieber and Stiller would be great. And so on its own, yeah, well, I would say, yeah, salad is like pretty rubbish, but if you put lasagna next to it, it would be a lot bigger deal, a lot better. No, I think that's if you think about it in terms of like the complete midfield, then would it be someone like Kobe Mainoo, Morgan Gibbs White, plus Belieber, and maybe you could be looking at that sort of midfield possibly. I think ideally you'd want to get a couple of goal scorers in there. I don't know if Angela still is a big goal scorer, but I think Morgan Gibbs White definitely could be, but you could maybe have two creatives in there, couldn't you? But that would kind of rely on, I suppose, it depends where you play these players, wouldn't it? That would feel like you're relying on maybe mainly to be more of a six if you're looking at Morgan Gibbs White and more attacking players. I mean, a lot of us think the Angela Stiller deal might be close, but there was actually some links with another team. I don't know if it was Juventus, but there was another team that was linked with Angela Stiller recently. And yeah, who knows? Who knows? That there might be like a surprise twist in in what happens. I would say that's quite cheap for a Leipzig player. I mean, Leipzig seem to be like the Brighton in Germany, don't they? Where every player that's linked is very, very expensive. So market steal valued at 35 million to 42 million on 100k a week. Wide playmaker, similar to Rogers, but with more explosive one-on-one dribbling. Oh, Red Bull Leipzig. I read that as right back. So Red Bull Leipzig. So my mistake. So Bakayoko, 100k a week, which I think actually Forest players seem to be on that. I think Morgan Gibbs White and Anderson are already on that sort of salary. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it could be like a that sounds like quite a good deal. But if that is if that player is actually uh, considered good enough, then I'm sure like Leipzig is the team we're well aware of. So Vivell would be all over that sort of deal. So yeah, that would be one to consider. Mason Mount stays to his contract goes, Jim, doesn't he? He's going nowhere. Real Madrid. I'm trying to think. Like, it wasn't just Real Madrid. I don't know if it was like Bayern Munich or Juventus, but there was another big club apart from Real Madrid linked to Angela Stiller tonight. I can't remember which one it was. It might be something to cover if anything happens with that deal. But yeah, there's definitely more than one club, Debassis, that potentially interested. Um, well, I don't think you're going to sell Mount. Apparently, a bit of an update as well. Lissandro Martinez, Manchester United will not listen to offers this transfer window. So I've seen that tonight that they consider him essential. He's got the experience, the skill set they need, and they're not going to look at moving him on. I think this what this means is maybe it's like another year, and then Aiden Heaven with another year's development, Lissandro Martinez can leave. So I don't think Manchester United are looking at Lissandro Martinez exit. That was something that we kind of thought about, but no, and I think that means that they're probably not going to bring anyone in. So extending Maguire, keeping and not considering any sort of offers for Lissandro Martinez, who has been like occasionally talked about. So I think with that in mind, that Man United are going to be probably not signing any centre backs, probably not selling any centre backs. So what we've got is probably what we're going to stick with. And the fullback situation, I think we might be looking at a left back. Kadioglu was discussed, and maybe what we're looking at is potentially someone that can play both positions, go for a bit of cover. So I think there's going to be potentially a defensive signing, but I wouldn't I wouldn't hope for too much. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't hope for a lot of money being spent on that position. So at the moment, if you're just tuned in, the poll currently it's like over 40% have gone for Morgan Gibbs White in the vote so far. So we'll let the stream play out for another sort of 20 minutes and then we'll see who's winning. But if you haven't voted already, please vote and get involved in the conversation. Also, don't forget to share the stream if you can, because this is a bit of an unusual streaming time for us. So we're probably a lot of people are not expecting us to stream at this sort of time. So please share the stream if you're able to. We're probably not going to be. I'll say this: we are selling. If you think about it, we are going to be selling Rashford, Anana, Deer. Who else have we got? Rasmus, Xerxes, Agate. So that's six players. I mean, if we sell six players in one window, and possibly like maybe Toby Collier is also up for sale as well. So seven players. I think if we're selling seven players that I don't know, a lot of them are in and around the first team. I don't think we can sell too many more. So I think seven players is actually quite a lot to sell in one window. Do I think that Rogers' links are because his Carrick was his coach during 23-24? There does seem to be like links like between. I think with this, I think it's on recent form. The fact that he's playing well, the fact that Manchester United we moved on a lot of attacking players, didn't we? So the fact we actually moved on Marcus Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, I think we're always linked to. I think the club want to get attacking players in. And also with like the Bruno speculation last year, I think United we need to have a little bit more depth. So yeah, it's not easy to try and replace some of these players, and it's not easy to try and replace Bruno. I think they're just looking at what options are out there. But it might well be that Michael Carrick has a bit of a say. I can't remember actually if we were linked to Rogers before January or after, because I know we were linked to Diamonde before, so yeah, it could be also. If you're looking at Rogers, he's probably one of the form players this season. And if you remember, like last year, we bought probably the two form players in the Premier League. We bought Cunha and Wemo, and I think they were both in the top five goal scorers. And I think Rogers is probably like fairly high up as well. So Lehman says you voted for Morgan Gibbs White purely on price. Um, I would say price is one thing, but it's not everything, is it? But if you're looking at price, I mean, you are looking at. I think the price reflects on the age. So younger players seem to cost more, and I think it's like you have a combination of being able to sell them on a bit more, and you do have a few other options as well. JDC says if we sign Morgan Gibbs White, we're just wasting money. If you want a cam, get Nico Paz. What's your what information have you got about Nico Paz? Because I've seen his name pushed out a lot. Like, what's his attributes? What are his weaknesses? I mean, I will look into this one. But if you're in the Discord, please share some information. If you've got some information on Nico Paz, I mean, I have looked into Yildiz because he's been talked about and people do rate him up quite a lot. But I'm not so familiar with Nico Paz. John, so Bakayoko is one of the fastest players in the Bundesliga. So that sounds actually pretty fast. That sounds like Cristiano Ronaldo type pace. Stephanie saying, do you think this, if Forest win Europa, you think they hold on to all their players? And you have mentioned it once or twice, Stephanie, but that's fine because some people will not be in the stream. They will not know. They will not know your thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think that extends to Anderson? That if you're looking at Forest surviving and actually getting European football next season, do you think they would genuinely keep on to Anderson? If there's an offer of 100 million plus from City, are they going to keep Anderson? That would be it would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? I get the feeling they were going to cash in on Anderson, but I don't know. It's possible, isn't it? That maybe they would do that. I don't know. Maybe they would, but I think it must be quite tempting if there's an offer of over 100 million for Anderson and you can buy a player to replace him. It must be very tempting, even from like a profit point of view. They could buy they could buy Hayden Hackney for 30 million. They could sell Anderson, and then effectively they've made a 70 million pounds profit. They bought Anderson for 35 million. They could replace him. They could get another player in. Big profit made. Really good, I think. So really good. and then they could do the same thing again, couldn't they? So I think with Nottingham Forest, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And it seems that a few teams, I'm always surprised by this, but there's teams that they don't seem to have the ambition to keep the best players. They want to sell them. I think if I was Aston Villa fan, I'd be genuinely disappointed if I was selling Rodgers because he's one of the best players they got. And if you look at them selling, who did they sell? They sold Don Duran not long ago. They look to sell Rodgers, and then you think, right, we've still got Ollie Watkins, but why aren't they moving Ollie Watkins and then buying the next generation? It feels like what they're doing is the wrong way round. So if Aston Villa keeps selling younger players and cashing on those younger players, eventually they're going to be. I think it's a bit of a dangerous thing, but if they do it, I'm absolutely fine with that one. So does it depend on how ambitious a player is? Well, I think it gets a bit messy, doesn't it? If you're an ambitious player, but even Gaz, if you're an ambitious player and you want to move on, but you've just signed a 5-year contract, then you have a situation like, say, Tonali, where you're trying to force your way out. So it's tricky. Gaz says Gibbs White isn't a winger. So just to put Morgan Gibbs White's heat map up for context, this is where Morgan Gibbs White generally plays for Forest, and this is an average over all games. So he does seem to go. He's got okay. I think it's described as a free roll. He can go left, can go right, generally centrally, but again, I think he can have a lot of a lot of different positions. Like for Forest, he gets a bit of a free rein. If you're looking at bringing him at Manchester United, it depends where you want to play him. If you want to play him on the left, then maybe naturally he drifts inside. But again, I think that's by the way Forest play rather than any sort of. He can play on the left a bit further out if he wants to. I don't think he's a natural winger generally, but yeah, it looks a little bit like everywhere, doesn't it? So everywhere at the moment. So Gazza, so I know he's played a bit wider this season. He could have been effective in Amarin's system as a left 10. I agree with that one. He could have worked in that system. And maybe what we've done really is we probably bought too many tens, and now we've got a situation where if we're linked to tens, I think we should be a little bit. Are you hungry, Berber? I see a lot of food analogies. Do you need some food? Because sometimes that if you're thinking about something too much, you might be needing it, possibly. But this is again, I'm not saying that we should sign Morgan Gibbs White. We're just discussing the links and the story that was put out there today. But I think now, if you're looking at him, is it's almost like is it a problem that he plays everywhere, or is versatility a good thing? That Danny says he's not a United player, more Spurs level. So I mean, I think with Manchester United, I think for £60 million, there's other options out there, and it depends, doesn't it? If Manchester United go and think, right, yeah, this player has got versatility, he could play multiple positions. Is he going to be, how effective is he going to be in games? Does he raises I would say he raises the floor of our team. So if you're looking at our first team options and then you look at the bench options, he does raise the floor of our team, but he is quite expensive. Like if Manchester United are looking to try and get players that are going to be maybe fighting to get into the team, I don't think Morgan Gibbs White walks into the team. I think he could be like starting some games possibly, but I'd say Cunha I'd play on the left and Bremo I'd play on the right, and I think Benjamin Sesko should be starting every game next season. So yeah, so let's go through the comments. A few more. Welcome, Ian. And you're always driving, Ian. Like you're always driving around. So local youth team tonight. No, I'll catch you later, Ian. But you must be living in your car. But I guess I don't know what your thoughts are. But I have got a poll voting. You probably can't vote. But at the moment, I don't know if like a few of the comments have been looking at the conversation about Morgan Gibbs White and started to vote for Diamonde. I think Diamonde for me that this is what I would say about this. If you look at Manchester United and you consider, I'm going to use the heat map because I think it illustrates my point in this one. If you're going to look at the heat map and go right, where the heat map's strongest, Manchester United got Cunha on that left, we've got Mbeumo on that right. I think if we're looking to replace Bruno Fernandes, maybe, but that's an argument where I'd say if we're going to replace Bruno Fernandes, Bruno Fernandes is world class. We need to replace him with a better quality player than that. But if you're looking at Morgan Gibbs-White in a Manchester United squad, I don't think he gets into our first team. I think Cunha and Buemo Bruno in that three of a 4-2-3-1, Sesko in front. I think effectively he's like fighting Armadillo to get on the pitch. So, and I think £60 million for somebody that's going to be that sort of stage of his career. I don't know. We got Dorgu there. We've got Lacey coming up. I would look at Diamonde as a serious option. I think he's very expensive, but I would maybe look at players of that age because I think that if you've got to be considering that Cunha and Buemo are an age where they can play for the next 5 years, no problem. And I think you need to look at players that are younger to be the next generation that are going to replace those. So again, people can have different views, but I think if we're looking at trying to get these sort of sensible squad improvements in, let's have a look at some of the comments. Someone's saying Forrest annoy you. Don't worry about Forrest. Is Gibbs a starter for England? I don't think so. I mean, England have got a very good squad, haven't they? So, Lumen's saying no one will sell us a player for less than 50 million. I think they will. We've got Dorgu, Aiden Heaven, Mazraoui, Cheeto. We've got a few players for less than 50 million. Delit was less than most of our players have been less than 50 million. Agate was less than 50 million. So I think only Euro cost more than 50 million a couple of years ago. And if you're going to buy Mbeumo and Cunha, they're going to cost way more than that, aren't they? Lemons, um, if you're going to buy top quality players that have got years of experience, you're going to pay more than 50 million. But I think you can go younger and get some good deals, which we saw. I've definitely said it'd be great to see Forest back into the old European Cup. Can you imagine though, if Forest win the Europa League the same season that Leicester get relegated to the League One? Wow, I think Leicester fans it would be. But for me, I think Nottingham Forest are a historical big team. They've got two Champions Leagues, two European Cups, I should say. But no, it would be weird, wouldn't it? Like it might be that Forest get into the Champions League and Manchester United are in the Champions League at the same time. So we could have some big names. Also, Aston Villa have won the European Cup, so potentially, if it wasn't for Arsenal, although Arsenal could change it this season, we could have every team qualifying from the Premier League could have already won the Champions League or European Cup, apart from Arsenal, if Arsenal don't win it this season. So it could be Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Forest, or Aston Villa, and they've all won. Actually, Aston Villa should qualify through the league. So I don't know what happens then. There could be a lot of English teams, and apart from Arsenal, they could have all won it. So I kind of hope that Arsenal don't win tonight because it would be less. I'd like to see that record keep going as long as possible. Arsenal fans cry river anything, to be honest. Like I think even though I'm talking about Manchester United, Arsenal fans will join the comments to talk about other things. But I'm going to close the poll and find out what people have voted for. So if you want to vote, you've got about 30 seconds to click vote. And we will go for a few questions. If people got some, like, I don't mind staying live during the game for a bit. If people want to talk about Manchester United, I'm not really worried about watching um, Stoke City play in the semi-final. But if you've got some questions, we can go through that instead because the game last night was a definitely going to be a different sort of game to tonight's game, I imagine, unless something bizarre happens. But I think the game tonight. I mean, the thing is also Arsenal might be very boring, but in a cup situation, their boring football might actually get them over the line. So they're not out of the competition, and sometimes being difficult to beat and boring and stokey can actually get you a result. So Arsenal are out of this competition. I know people think they're going to be knocked out by whoever they play, but no, sometimes that can get over the line in certain competitions. Like Greece won the Euros with like 1-0, so it can happen. So let's have a look at the poll and gauge the opinion because I think that's going to be interesting. So okay, so the question was going to be, what's the best deal for Manchester United? And people that voted, it was actually a win for Diamonde, which is interesting. Who voted for Cole Palmer at 125 million? Like 125 million for Palmer. I don't know. We should wait until Chelsea have a closing down sale, then get him because I think that's astronomically priced. Um, but otherwise, Rogers 80 million got 14%, Morgan Gibbs White got 38%, and Diamonde wins it with 51%. So interestingly, the second highest price on the board, 85 million for Diamonde. To be honest, if I had the money and I was looking at those options, I think that Diamonde might be the most exciting option on that list. But again, it's so early on in its career. It would be quite a gamble. It would be a lot of money. So I don't know. Who voted for Palmer out of interest? Who did you vote for, Cody? You can say who you voted for now. It's the ballot's been. I'm just interested to know who voted for certain things. But I mean, I would probably be looking at. I would go for Diamonde, but to be honest, it wouldn't be my priority at all. I'd say Palmer not worth the 25, says Ryan. Yeah, who's going to tell Chelsea that they've got players on 6 or 7 year contracts that no one wants to buy? They're going to cost a lot. Hey, welcome, Genghis. I guess you're not. Is that translated into something else? I don't think it's saying goodbye. I think it's saying something else. Rob voted Diamonde. So Diamonde is quick but expensive. I know, but if you want to get the best players in the world, I think you have to go for teenagers that are breaking through rather than someone that's been at Spurs and Forest. Like no disrespect to Gibbs White, but I don't think he's unless he's gone under the radar a lot. I don't think he's got the game changing quality we need at the very highest level in football. He's been. I'm not going to say he's not been decent recently, but it's not what I want to say. I say Palmer isn't going to play left wing. Neither is Morgan Gibbs White. Rogers is more of a 10. Never watched Diamonde. You chose Palmer because he's the best of them, says Gaz. Do you know what, Gaz? I think that my concern about Cole Palmer is when Cole Palmer's good, he's really good. But my question is going to be a bit of a bit of maybe injury issues. But I think sometimes I see Palmer and think he's a bit inconsistent. Like if he has a bad game, he's quite bad. But if he has a good game, he is really good. I think the price is like way too much though. Like I just don't think that there's. I don't think we can come close to that price that they want. I think 100 million is the most we would pay for a player, and I don't think we're going to. I don't think we're going to actually get within 10 million of that, if I'm honest. So I mean, Palmer's got probably, if you looked at each player over the last year and picked out the best game or best moments, Palmer would be up there. But I think Rogers is quite exciting because of his finishing. And at 23 years old, Rogers can develop a lot. So I think Rogers can improve quite a lot. Nikki says, Hart says Diamonde, but you voted Rogers helps us more. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think it's genuinely a difficult decision because Diamonde has got potential world class, like world class potential, I should say. But it feels risky, doesn't it? It feels like I don't know. It feels like you've got a player there that if it doesn't work out really well, you're going to be spending loads of money on. I mean, I'm kind of a bit worried about spending that sort of money on a player that's never played in the Premier League. If you're looking at Mathis Tell, or you're looking at like no, Mathis Tell didn't do amazing at Bayern, but he was kind of like quite highly rated. And if you're looking at Anthony and Sancho, Sancho is very highly rated in the Bundesliga. Had actually two very good seasons. I think he got 20 plus goals for a couple of years, or at least close to the second year. So I think I'm quite wary about a player that's played like one good season in the Bundesliga. I think that jump to the Premier League, I think it's too soon. So Diamonde, if he kicked on, then I think that the price would. I don't think the price would actually go up anymore. I think that that sort of price is going to be really expensive. As Sebastian said, like if Red Bull Leipzig won't sell Diamonde for anything less than 85 million, I think it's way too much, like way too much for that one. Um, yeah, I don't know with like that. And people have said that about Palmer. I don't know. I don't know too much about him, but I just think that has he got a bit of injury issues as well? Let's say Rogers hasn't been consistent. He's had a hot streak where he scored 8 in 10. Yeah, no, I take your point, Gaz. I think with United as well, you could make the same argument for Man United players and say, and Mbeumo had a bit of a hot streak first few months of the season, and then you could say Cunha's had a hot streak since then, and you could say Sesko actually. I think Sesko's probably been. once he actually started getting in the first team more, I think Sesko has been one of the more consistent as well. So yeah, as you said, you're contradicting me, but I think if you look at the last few months, I think Sesko actually has been pretty consistent. Like he's not scoring every single game, but he probably has had over the last 10 games most of his goals. So the only advantage of what he's born in the league, but it's English plus United taxes. Aston Villa want profit, don't they? I think every Premier League team with players knows they can charge a lot. All the Premier League teams are relatively wealthy as well. Yeah, El boring out to kick off. Well, it could surprise you. It could surprise you. You can stick in the chat. Stay in the chat though, Bilal. Are people interested in a call-in show late on Sunday after the Liverpool match? So we're going to play Liverpool. We'll do a match reaction straight after, and we might do a call-in show there'll be like one or two. There'll be one guest host, myself probably, and it'll be like fixed time periods for people to come on. So are people interested? Sorry, people are interested in that because I think we're going to do that and get as many people on as possible to join in, which should be good. And Genghis, I don't know. I don't know. I think okay. I think Palmer does appear to be someone that isn't necessarily going to be incredibly. I know what you're saying with that one, but I think like Paul Gascoigne didn't really come across as having that sort of the right mentality in terms of like attitude to and professionalism. But you could also look at say other players of a similar sort of thing. I did do a poll, Bilal. I did a poll earlier today. Are you talking about like a call-in show? So Palmer didn't suit Maresca's rigid style. Chelsea have been pretty rubbish since. No, it's just differences of opinion, isn't it, Gaz? I think that he's just too expensive, but I think he's a good player. I think he's got like good attributes. I don't know whether it's going to be. I think it's too much of a gamble given the price. Then, if he was a Man United player and he'd come from the academy, and we could kind of judge him a bit more on what he's looking at, what he's doing. But I don't know if there's any players at Chelsea I'd actually want to take at this moment in time. I know Caicedo is going to be talked about as like maybe going to, or maybe even one of their best players, and Enzo might go to Man City, but. I don't know. I think Chelsea have got a lot of problems. I don't, apart from João Pedro, I don't think they've got loads of quality in terms of scoring goals. And I think defensively they're quite suspect as well. So it's kind of not great, is it? Santos might be one actually. Yeah, if I was going to be fair, Santos is actually one that apparently Manchester United like him, but I don't know. Cody says brutal takes tonight. I think it's just no, I think people have got difference of opinions, and no, I think like most people would look at Cole Palmer and say that clearly there's a good player in there. If you look at the game against Real Betis, the final, and when they played against Anthony's team, and Cole Palmer essentially changed what was a boring game into completely controlling the game in Chelsea's favour. So Cole Palmer can do amazing stuff. It's just whether it's going to be one of these people that does it consistently. So that's my only concern about him. I think he's good. I think he's got a lot of ability. Whether it's like channeled in the right direction, I don't know. It's like clearly he's not gone off the rails, but it's not like he's kicked on from a couple of years ago. So yeah, I think this one like people used to say negative things about David Beckham on his interviews, but no, on his day, you can pick out games where Palmer does more than Rogers. Rogers has scored some amazing goals, but when we played against Aston Villa at the start of the season, he was quite poor. So when I was looking at, say, Manchester United, we lost to Aston Villa. Rogers did score an amazing goal, but for me, during open play and at other parts of the game, he wasn't dominating the game. Aston Villa kind of hit us on the break a bit. No, I think you could pick out. I think Gaz. I think people will judge Palmer on loads of things, and I think Palmer's one of those players that if you want to find good things, there's loads to go on. And yeah, I think if you want to find negatives, there's stuff you can find as well. It's a bit like Rashford. You can find loads of positives, lots of things he did, but people can also find things about Now they can find negatives if they want to say negative things about him. So it's like anything. I think of Bruno Fernandes, people will find negatives about Bruno, about Cunha, about Mbuemo. So it's just a difference of opinion. I think Morgan Gibbs White. I've seen a few positives in the chat tonight from a few people, but I've seen a lot of people just quite dismissive of a player that has actually hit very good form. And even though people are saying he's rubbish, he's not this quality or that, but Morgan Gibbs White has been very effective in recent games and is one of the reasons why Nottingham Forest are, moving to safety. So I think there's going to be, yeah, people have no idea what these players are like, do they? There's literally nothing. I think for Man United players that they maybe you can see a bit more from Man United players because there might be a bit more media stuff. But yeah, welcome to chat, Lucky. Good to see you, Lucky. So people, should I stay live for a bit longer? So yeah, Morgan Gibbs White did sign a new deal. That's true, Gaz. So as a Glazers out fan, I know as soon as I get the channel monetized again, I'll get the Glazers out emojis. So I kind of miss those. They were quite nice to have in the chat. But I've got all the emojis saved. As soon as the channel's monetized, I can bring those back. Like he says, as a Glazers out fan, I care about Arsenal winning the Premier League or Manchester City. Who do you want to win? Then Lucky. To be fair, as a Man United fan, it's kind of difficult to pick one or the other. It's disappointing if Arsenal win. If City win another one, it is another one. It's annoying. It's really annoying. You want Arsenal to win. You want Arsenal to win? I'm guessing that's what you're saying. And say, Berber, this would have been really good. This would have been really good news this morning. If I knew this at 12 o'clock this afternoon, I could have put this in because loads of people were in this chat saying Tonali's going to go to, he wants to go to Italy. But that's interesting. So he's ready to stay in the Premier League. To be honest, he is like, under contract. There is chance I could do like a late stream, but I don't know. Is it better? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's a bit different. And when I was talking about this, it depends on where you are in the world, where you are in the UK as well. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans, and if Arsenal win things, these people are unbearable. You have to appreciate that Arsenal fans are unbearable in real life. Like if you think Arsenal fans are bad on social media, but Arsenal fans are actually bad in real life that I know, and I don't know any City fans, so that's all I'll say. And yeah, and when they lance Armstrong in the Premier League, they'll just all be redacted from official records anyway, so it won't be a problem, will it? The City things will just not count. So Arsenal will be awarded it at some point in the future when City get deducted, and maybe actually, unfortunately, Arsenal, if City get these cancelled, then Arsenal might have a few, which is disappointing, isn't it? I didn't think about that. We might benefit from one, but Arsenal might get a few. That'd be tough. I would say Genghis is saying attitude is everything. Look at Sancho and Garnacho, and I know when you look at it, I think the difference is going to be like if you can think of some players where it hasn't gone well, and I think Xerxes hasn't gone well, but I don't see the sort of negativity from Xerxes. I see him coming on, trying to do what he can do. I don't see Mason Mount complaining after being completely frozen out of the team. And Dorgu, Sesko, Lamans, like Sesko struggles to get into the team. So yeah, it's the difference of attitude, isn't it? And professionalism. And I think that's going to be the difference that Ganacho might have more ability than Dorgu, and Sancho might have more ability than a lot of players, but they could potentially be having a career that just drops down to nothing. Like if you imagine that people talking about Garnacho and Kobe Mainoo a couple of years ago, or even like Sancho when he was playing in Germany, then they'd expect these players to be at this stage of their career. They should be like some of the best players in the world. Like if they'd improved over 4 years, they should be with some of the best players in the world. But no, I think Kobe Mainoo will surprise people. That people that don't like Kobe Mainoo, I think he'll be a really good player in a few years' time. Yeah, did Genghis say that as well? Yeah, Dorgu Sesko. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, I saw the picture of the Jack Grealish slumped over drunk again. Unfortunately, I think that okay, I know there's like a funny side to it, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of Paul Gascoigne. I think Grealish has got some bad friends or not great, and I think he's gone down that route. That the fact is that how old's Jack Grealish? Because I remember like when you're a teenager or early 20s and you're doing this sort of maybe you are going out partying a lot more or going to clubs. But the age that Grealish is in, I don't know, it's like he hasn't matured or grown up. And I think Jack Grealish is just probably kind of ruining the last bit of his career. It is definitely a kind of Paul Gascoigne trajectory career wise. Gas at 30, mental age 13. Yeah, it could be like on something there. Hey, big up Niall. Any questions, Niall? I keep seeing it pop up in the comments, Niall. I haven't seen many questions from you. I don't know if you've got any questions of this one. But I think if you look at what's happened with, as an example, for Jack Grealish, and then compare it to Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford, I think, went out what once or twice, and people still talk about him going out in was it Dublin or Ireland? I think it was like once, wasn't it? Jack Grealish has been like pictures being drunk about a ridiculous amount of times. There's definitely a media bias, and there might be a few reasons why that is the case. Yeah, I don't even think Genghis. I don't even think Mainoo's worked on his game. Mainoo wasn't even starting games. He didn't start a single game under Ruben Amorim. So I don't think it's like Mainoo was poor and had to work on his game. I think Mainoo was good, got dropped for no good reason, and then came back and showed that he was good. I don't think Mainoo was playing badly. He just didn't get into the team. And we had a pre-season, then Mainoo just wasn't chosen for in games. So no, I think he's I don't think Mainu could have done anything different. That he was playing well, got dropped, then has come back and played well. I don't think he's no, I don't think he could have done much. That Ruben Amorim didn't like him, and no one knows why. There was something that there was some reason that he didn't like him. I don't know why. He didn't, as far as I could see, he didn't do anything. He was working with I think he's working with different trainers, trying to like build up his like athleticism a bit, trying to get this one. Yeah, I remember. So I remember thinking, yeah, I thought I actually had a stream once where I said, pick one, pick Amrin or Mainoo because one's going to stay, one's going to go. And if if Amrin had stayed, Mainoo would have been sold, and I think that might have been a factor in him going. How many did I actually have no idea. I don't know if Rashford do anything? I think Grealish did worse, but that's my opinion. I think Grealish. I've seen a lot more of Grealish being reported being drunk, and didn't Grealish go drink driving during lockdown? So I don't know. I think it's been misreported a bit because Rashford's a Man United player, and it gets. I think when Rashford did a few things that upset people. So yeah, that's what I was saying. That I know it's quite funny, but on a serious note, it's so Rashford. Okay, if he did that, I don't know the story bit. If he did it without drinking, that's stupid as well, to be honest. Um, yeah, no, that's just silly, isn't it? Um, yeah, maybe that's it. I don't want to say too much about that sort of side of the player's personality, but I think in terms of like, if you look at this one, then if you look at Sen Lamens, you just think, okay, I want my goalkeeper to be boring and reliable and just good at what he does, but he crashed a new Bentley. Okay. No, so I want my players to be boring and dedicated. Like, do you remember Skulls? I think Skulls had like no. I think he had no life outside football. I think Gary Neville had no life outside football when he was a football player, and that's kind of what I want. So I just want it to be boringly professional and focused on that. Don't be so watching Arsenal is like. Is it like watching? Is it soporific like watching baseball late at night in the UK, where if you need to sleep, you can just watch baseball when nothing's happening for like 2 hours and you gradually drift off. But is it a defense? Is this a sort of game that would be a defensive masterclass where there's literally no shots on goal? Because it feels a bit like it might be. It might be the set piece derby, isn't it? It's Atletico are notoriously sort of difficult team to play against. Yeah, no. Yeah, Mainu's like been absolutely fine, hasn't he? I think people hated it that Mainu's Mainu's brother wore a t-shirt, but to be honest, Mainu wasn't in the team. What more could he done? Okay, yeah, exactly. The only time I fell asleep watching a match was in the World Cup in 1994 because I was working. I was quite young, so I was doing like a summer job that was in a factory, and I had to get up at 6 a.m. Well, the shift I started a shift at 6 a.m., so I had to get up at 5, and then I did a shift, came home at 2. Then I started watching a game, and it might have been Brazil against Holland or something. I think it was the semi-final. And I started watching the game that kicked off at 11. I think it was 11 p.m. UK time. So I've been up since 5 a.m. And then I was watching it, and then I fell asleep and woke up and it had finished. And I just started looking for, okay, I think Brazil won 1-0. But I think that's why I don't watch Arsenal because life's too short to watch Arsenal games. I feel sorry for Arsenal content creators that are kind of obliged to watch them even when the football's crap. Do you know one? No, I didn't know that, Gaz. It's not a high profile player, is he? Probably that might be the factor. Okay, so back on topic because you know outside diets here. So Gibbs White is another one season wonder, and so you don't understand this market. Don't worry. The thing that's a bit concerning for me is that not that these stories come out, but these stories will come out. Is it's still May. They're looking for stories. But this is the thing that also is that this isn't the Telegraph in the UK, so it is. Yeah, it's not made. This isn't like some what's it called? Fitcharles, that Spanish newspaper that just kind of says Man United are going to get Valverde, that one that makes up stuff. No, this is actually British newspapers. So again, maybe British newspapers are actually less reliable than um, than Twitter aggregators. But yeah, I watch Arsenal twice a year, 3 times if we play them in the FA Cup. But that's my limit. And to be honest, actually, I will say this: I did enjoy Man United versus Arsenal this season, the second game. That was one of the best games I've watched this season. So yeah, um, lucky. Keep your stance. Don't compromise. Don't compromise what you believe in at all. The anti-football derby is definitely one. Yeah, it's like the football and the anti-football. So what it does mean is though we're going to get a final where there's two exciting football teams, I feel, and then there's going to be maybe maybe two negative teams. But the thing is, the fact that Arsenal and Atletico are maybe more negative, it's still a cup final, and it could actually, it still makes it not, it's not the most unlikely scenario. Like Arsenal could still get through this, and any team could win it. I don't think Atletico have ever won it, so I wouldn't mind too much if they won, but I don't know if I'm a favourite in the other game. I'm kind of a neutral in that one. Just a quick question for things on the channel. Do you think it's better to have a 7 p.m. kickoff for streams, or do you think it's going to be? uh, let me have a quick check at this. Newcastle taking the piss, I think. Let me see what this is. I think they are, but I'll just double check. If it's above 100, then okay. So Sandro Tonali staying in the Premier League this summer will return to Serie A. Absolutely impossible. They want a huge 90 to 110 million euros. That's for Fabrizio. Is that for Fabrizio tonight? So, hmm, I think they're just bloody greedy, aren't they, Newcastle? I get the feeling that Newcastle, they like Tonali, but they feel like they can just cash in and get someone cheaper. I'd be genuinely interested that I might speak to an Arsenal. I keep saying this. I need to speak to a couple of Newcastle content creators because they're going to be a bit more on the money with this one. They're going to have an idea. I just want to know that if there's any players they're looking at trying to sign. So if anybody knows, if they're looking at selling Tonali for 110 euros, so 110 million euros, who are they going to buy? Like who are Newcastle going to buy to replace Tonali? Because there must be a few people out there. Um, I think we respected what you said with the yeah. I think if tonight's 110, I think there's options out there. I'd be let's go right. Just sign. I would still sign Belieber. I know people are, oh, I don't get Belieber, but no, I would still sign Belieber for that sort of money, and I would still no, I would look at getting João Gomez done maybe. I think there's definitely a few options there. So they're looking at Arahu at Flamenco and Lam Camara at Monaco. Okay, I don't know if I'd be. I don't know if I'd be looking at getting a player from Flamengo in to replace him. That sounds a bit, I don't know, hit and miss. But so you think you can tell a player when he's had his head turned? I think Tonali's ambitious, and I think he realizes that Newcastle are going nowhere. So um, I think yeah, for some reason, if if Manchester United, okay, Nicky, if Manchester United, I say Nicky, if Manchester United can get this deal done, Agate 60 million for Tonali or however much it is, and if Agate ends up being a Newcastle player, I will find it so funny. I will find that funny. I can't see that happening, but it would make me laugh. Like you said, Joshua Zirkzee to Newcastle. Oh my! Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Newcastle got no? What has Joshua Zirkzee got this season for Man United, like goal wise? I honestly can't remember the celebration um, being done for ages. No, if they go from Isak to Xerxes in 2 years, I don't know. I'd just be like laughing. So yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know why Newcastle bought Wissa either. That was like so. That was just apparently Newcastle are going to be selling Wissa at a massive loss as well. So um, yeah, everything's going wrong. Yeah, I think last year I was talking about this to Bastis, saying they still wanted. I think actually, who was it that was linked to? Is Agate still linked with like Juventus, or like is Xerxes still linked with Juventus? Because I think there's definitely like, could we say, look, take Mason Mount and Xerxes, give us Yildiz. There you go. That would be a good job. Welcome, Quinn, to the chat. For people that joined in calling shows, are you interested in one? Because normally we do, if there's a match on Sunday, I was thinking we might not do a calling show, but if we do a pre-match and then we do if Helga's up for doing a watch along and then we do a post-match stream, then maybe myself and we deserve better could anchor a calling show in the evening. So we could look at doing that. If people, it depends on availability. If people want to do that, if we deserve better is actually up for doing that, then we could try and do that. I don't know what time it would be, but we'd have to leave a little bit of a gap between the two shows. But we'll see. We'll see. I do know a couple of people. Actually, I did say that Dora might be coming back on the channel as well on Friday, so that's good news. So you might be getting Dora back on Friday, and potentially Dora plus Dylan will be at 7 p.m. on a Friday show. So that might be quite a good show as well. That'll be myself doing like news as well. But no, we might do a calling show on Sunday. I did say we might leave it to Monday because of the match, but I was thinking it might be good to have a calling show where the focus could be you guys get to come on and discuss the game. So we'll do a normal match reaction on Sunday, discuss the Liverpool game, and I mean this will be definitely a brilliant idea if we win the game. If we lose the game, then I mean we might have to have like some sort of swear jar, but it might still be a good idea to do it, but we'll have to think about it. Have to think about whether we need to. It's probably a lot depends on how the game goes and how people feel after the match reaction. But we'll try and make the match reaction a bit more concise, so we have got a decent amount of breathing room before we talk about it and get people on because we saw what happened last a couple of weeks ago with Arsenal fans. We can't have that happening with people getting too angry about it. But looking at the chat, Welcome, Alex. So Mount can be sold for 22 million without taking a loss. Yeah, for some reason these weren't actually refreshing particularly well. Has anybody seen Nikki, the account Nikki? Because I haven't seen Nikki in the chat, and she used to be in quite regularly in streams. That's one account I haven't been able to find. I did see the account on another channel, but I couldn't really message them and say this is the new channel, come and find it. But yeah, Dora's going to be yeah, I think Dora would be great to get her opinion because I've not spoken to her for ages about anything happening with potential manager options, potential things as well. So because we're playing Liverpool the next day, that's a good timing to get her on. So if you've seen Nikki, then I think you know the same account, Debassis. I don't know, maybe strategically just mention that the channel's still going because Nikki used to be regularly in the chat. I mean, yeah, you have to be kind of if you see the Mob Matches channel, maybe he's more easygoing. It might be a better tactic, sort of, to say just let them know um what's happening. But cheers to Bassis, I appreciate that. You have to be careful. I don't want to piss people off, but I also want to try and let people know that we restarted so they can find us again, if that makes sense. So ideal and Buemo Dorgu you think will be good that Man United can play with less pressure now? We can play with less pressure, but I just want to beat Liverpool. I think it's like there's an opportunity to beat Liverpool twice in one season, and maybe like like I don't think that there's any way that Liverpool can't finish in the Champions League, but still be good to finish above them. And it would be good to do the double over them, but also send a message out there that we can beat them with two different managers in one season. That would be pretty good. So I think I'll probably wrap up the stream now. If anyone's got any final comments, just a quick yes, no. Are people interested in the court? Like, I'll just put it in the chat. Just let me know what you think, because I know you might see it if it pops up. So, calling show Sunday evening, yes or no? What do people think? If people are up for it, it's only worth doing if people are up for it and coming on as well. But also, I need to do a self-promotion tour. The thing is, you have to be like you have to be what's the best way of putting it? I think you have to be careful because people get annoyed if you do that. Yeah, I think we just better. I think we can do the call. I think we can do the call and show as a separate entity in the evening when I know there's a couple of people that can make it more likely. But I think we'll try and do the post match a bit quicker. Maybe it can just be. I'll have a think about it. But say if Bruno gets his assist record against Liverpool, I think we need two, don't we? Do we need two assists against him? Because also, if we do the call and show a bit later, then JR can join, who's going to be at the match as well. So there's a few match going fans that potentially can join the call and show if we do it a little bit later. Um, yeah, so we've got any final questions before I wrap up? I was just thinking of practical things, Gregory. The poll is just to see if people are interested in coming on, then just to gauge your opinion. We probably will end up doing it because it's going to be quite fun as well. But I'm hoping that a couple of match going fans can come on as well. And say Mo Salah. I mean, if Mo Salah's out, I mean Mo Salah always scores against us. Nakatike's out, so they still got a good team. They're still dangerous, so it's still going to be a difficult one as well. 100%. Um, yeah, if we win, we'll do a celebration later on in the evening then to get people's thoughts and opinions. It might also be a time to reflect on what people are thinking as well. Yeah, the calling show, we've got some plans to make it a bit smoother so people can come on. They'll be the focus. You come on for 15 minutes, you're the focus of the stream. It's your ideas, your opinions, what you want to talk about, and we won't be interrupting you. It'll be you saying what you want to talk about, and hopefully you're talking about Bruno Fernandes beating Liverpool, and that'll be quality. Just open invitation to people. Go and have a look at. Are you in the Discord, Gaz? I don't know if people use Discord, but if you're on the Discord server, feel free to post stuff. I've set up a scouting section there. So if you got this information, I remember Nico Paz, so that's quite a short name to remember. But I think I posted this in the chat. If you're on Discord, then if you're not on Discord, then have a look at Discord there. And if you're on Discord, then just post some information there. If you've got anything to look at or things you've seen, just post it there, and we can and the community can see it as well. Debassa said, "I hope we don't unlock Verts. Hopefully not. He has got a bit better recently, but hopefully we don't." Uh, Yeah, if you're on Discord, Gaz, it's just a resource that supports the channel where there's about 70 people on there now, and people post information. I tend to post when I'm streaming. Jim tends to post when there's transfer news as well. There is a few sections there for other things supporting the channel, so it's just a free resource to look at as well. No, also we should have Cunha back. We should have Dorgy back, so it should be all good. And I think it could be a good time to play Liverpool. Man United seem to be on the up. Liverpool probably wavering a little bit. I think there's some positives. Greg, of course, it's still nil, Gregory. It's going to be 0-0 for most of the game. It's going to be like that. But no, have a check on Discord if you haven't, and post things there if you see useful information. Because if you do see useful information, I can maybe use it in my stream, and that'd be valuable as well. Because sometimes like Ryan sends me things or Cody sends me things, and I can just use them as part of our stream, trying to give you balanced or up to date information if we see it. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you can enjoy the Arsenal game, do that if you can. I won't be watching the Arsenal game because I can't stand Arsenal, but I might check out the highlights depending on what happens. And I will be back live, hopefully tomorrow about 9 a.m. as always. And I will be looking at trying to plan with a few more guests for the evening shows as well. So it might be that if we do, maybe this will be something that if you look at YouTube community pages, I might post a couple of polls to kind of gauge opinion. I might do 7 p.m. streams a bit more. I might do 10 p.m. streams. As football gradually finishes, I think what's more likely going to happen is we might do something like 7:30, 8 o'clock as an evening stream because that kind of fits with most of the guests and works quite well with a lot of people. So we might be doing that. But again, if you can share the stream with people that you know that like football content, even if they're not Manchester United fans, maybe they can come in and still contribute and enjoy the conversation. But if they are Man United fans, 100%, please bring them in. And yeah, looking at Mike Goats at Ajax for left wing option. I kind of get a bit of flashbacks when I see Ajax players though, Gaz. So he has to be very good if he's at Ajax because Ajax feels like a club we should be very cautious of. So we'll have to see. I'll have a look and if you've got any information you can share, I'll have a look at him. But cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the Arsenal game, like I said, if you can, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.